pandemic in town, and it's taking creators down a rabbit hole of corruption in a Massachusetts town. It strikes at the heart of bloggers, no matter podcaster or receiver. It can strike you like a Lexus, then you've got Karen Red River Fever. While all the symptoms are quite acute, and you'll ask things differently by far, you will utter what if anything, or you'll be screaming outside back. You'll swear she said I hit him 3 times while making butt dials as well. No matter how hard you try to fight it, you just can't unring that bell. So once you finally say I'll allow it, like Auntie built the darn diva, you'll find yourself behind that buffer zone, 'cause you've got Karen Red River Fever.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. I apologise for the last minute change of plans, but we do have a special guest coming on today to give us his educated opinion on the shenanigans that has erupted over Karen Reid. Welcome. Hey, Jenny, how are you? Welcome, welcome. We are going to go over the recent statements released by Special Prosector. Good morning, Tricia. And please tell me yes, I can see you in chat today. Thank you. I don't know what happened yesterday. I couldn't see you at all. So we're going to go over the statements that Hank released, and Alan has released a new one today too. And now our special guest he's called Tony Dewitt. He is, and I quote, a former combat medic, a former respiratory therapist, a former attorney, and now a YouTube content creator, because he can't hold down a job, he said. So say hello to Tony. Good morning, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
You followed this case thoroughly as well. Did you watch trial 1, Tony,
I didn't watch trial 1. I was in the middle of another trial at the time trial 1 started. And generally speaking, I don't like to pick up a trial in the middle of a trial. So I didn't do trial 1. I did kind of catch the end of it where she just spontaneously declared a mistrial, which was, I think, a very bad thing for her to do.
Yes.
And so I was really looking forward to this. And if I had known that it was going to go over, as long as it went, 6 weeks, I might not have wanted to do the trial, because I guess I have a shorter attention span than that. But
1st of April it started, so.
I thought it was a really good trial to do, but I want everybody, particularly people who may be in other countries, to know this is not American justice that you saw here.
No.
This is not American justice. This is
not even close.
There are trials that are held every day in the United States in different localities, in circuit courts and superior courts, where justice gets done. And the reason that justice gets done is because you have people who are good lawyers, but who aren't grandstanders, and you have prosecutors who do things ethically. And that's the right thing to do.
That's the complete opposite of what we have here. We have the cleaner got called in. The hired gun. That's all. And how much taxpayer money did he waste at the end of the day?
Probably more than $1.5 million.
Blue paint. And don't tell me that Lally did not know about all of the shenanigans that were going on too, because he did. He knew damn
Oh,
well.
he did. Yeah, he
Poor
knew that those holes were cut in that thing by the criminalist, and
Yes.
he didn't say
He
a
could have
word.
said, Hank, hang on, you're wrong. Sat there,
He
head
should have
down.
stood up and said, "Your Honor, may I have a moment?" and
Yep.
gone over and conferred with him, and then he could have abandoned
No.
that line of questioning and not made a fool of himself. But I just don't think he thought he was going to get caught.
Exactly. But Lally's just like, "Nah, he's getting paid the big bucks. He can take the big fall. Bugger him. And I would too. Let him
Well,
fall.
he billed, I think, over $250,000 before the trial ever started. Brennan did.
Okay,
And
yep.
so then when the trial started, he's probably working 15, 16, 17-hour days, and he's billing it at $250 an hour. So,
Yep.
when he's in the shower in the morning scrubbing underneath his armpits, he's billing the trial, he's billing the state for
Yeah.
that time.
So
Sad
it
but true.
was I correct in hearing that all of the other DAs refused to do the trial, or was it just that he was specially picked out by Morrissey to come in and do the job?
I think there were a lot of the people who, having seen what happened in the first trial, did not want to tarnish their reputation with it. And I think Lally probably thought he was a golden boy, and that, Morrissey would never let him go. So he agreed to take it. And obviously, he didn't think, or Morrissey didn't think, that Lally was capable of running the whole trial again. So he brought in Hank Brennan. And
Well, he managed to
there is
convince more jurors than Hank.
yeah, well, I think so. The issue really is, if you have a really weak case like that, then I think when you bring in somebody like Hank Brennan, it's an admission that you have a weak case.
Yep.
And then Hank Brennan just goes, full Kill Bill on the thing, and it's
He was just
I would have
after
been
a conviction.
ashamed. I would have been ashamed if I'd prosecuted the case that way.
I don't know how he can live with himself. He knows darn well that she didn't do it. He knows. And
He'll just cash the check and be happy. When it comes, he'll just cash the check.
So do you think is there any punishment that will happen because of his antics in court with the, with the hoodie? And
Is there theoretical punishment? Yes. I mean,
he
the
won't?
state
Good
bar
morning,
could
Kathy.
very easily discipline him. Will the state bar discipline him? I doubt it. Massachusetts is a very liberal state. It is not a
It's a
very
law unto
conservative
itself,
state.
isn't it?
Yeah, and if it wasn't invented in Massachusetts, it doesn't exist. I think they waited 30 years to get the telephone because it wasn't invented there. I mean, that's just the way Massachusetts is. A lot of the East Coast places are like that.
Is that because
And
it's like a founding state, or?
yes, it's
Yeah.
because it was part of the founding. And as a result, I mean, there is such a disparity in the law. For example, the law of self-defense. The law of self-defense in Massachusetts is that you have to retreat. You can't
Oh,
defend yourself if you don't retreat first. And if there is no possible means of retreat, then you can defend yourself. There's a gal, her first name's Rebecca. I forget what her last name is, but basically her boyfriend, who was a kind of a bit of a psychopath anyway, they had 2 kids together. He threatened to unalive her and the 2 children. So she took them down into the basement where she had a .22 rifle, and she told him not to come down. And he came down and said, "I'm going to kill them first, and then I'm going to kill you." And so she defended herself, and she was convicted of manslaughter, even though there was no exit from the basement. She had nowhere she could go. But she shot him while he was on the stairs. That's the thing that got her convicted.
but
And when it
isn't
went
the
up
fact
on
that she went
appeal,
down?
when it went up on appeal, the Massachusetts Supreme Court said, a lot of other states would have said that this was self-defense, but not Massachusetts. We like our law. We're staying with it.
That's how it's always been done, Mr. Jackson.
Yeah. And that there's a lot of that goes around. And the ridiculous idea in that case, for example, of the jury verdict forms. I showed on my channel the jury verdict
Oh,
forms that came in on and from Missouri, and in Missouri they take you right through the facts you have to find, and then on the verdict form it just asks guilty or not guilty on each individual charge.
there
They don't
should be
have
one
this
for each charge.
yeah, it isn't this ridiculous descending, pick one from column A and one from column B thing that you get in Massachusetts.
I don't understand why she had even bothered with the charging conference the day before if she was not going to alter a thing anyway. What was the point? It wasn't until
She
the
wanted to
end that
make
you
a
never
record.
stood up and said,
Yeah, she wanted
Your
to,
Honor.
yeah. She had to make a record basically that she had listened. Not that she'd done anything about it, but that she had
Yeah.
listened to the arguments. Uh, One of the things that she did that's probably not real obvious to a lot of folks, and I've talked about this on my channel too, is that she never let the lawyers state the basis of their objections.
Yes.
Normally,
Why is that?
normally in every trial that I've ever been in, you can't get by with just saying objection.
No.
You have to say, Your Honor, I object on the basis of relevance, or on
Yep.
Your Honor,
Yep.
objection, relevance, or foundation, or
Hearsay or yep.
speculation, or whatever it is. You have to state the legal basis. She didn't let him do that. And as a result, if that case had come out differently and it had to be appealed, an appellate court would have no idea why they objected, and it would have no idea why she has sustained it. And unfortunately, the rules sort of permit the appellate court to say, well, she was closest to it. She saw what was going on. She knew what she was doing. So we're not going to find fault with her. And
So,
that
yeah.
that should never be the situation, I don't
She
think.
opened up her escape route plan, basically,
Well,
to get out of it.
she basically prejudiced them from the very beginning.
Yeah. But she did that in the first trial as well. And they
Yeah.
they argued over that in the pre-trials as well to try and get it through, but she wouldn't budge. And apparently they've sealed all of the sidebars. They won't be released. They've all been sealed.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I understand that's probably exactly what's going to happen, but
Yeah.
in some respects, I would want the entire trial sealed for Karen Reed's benefit, right? So that nobody can come back and say that this was said about Karen Reed and here's the proof of it. But they may have a problem with that, with sealing what is a public trial. They may have a problem with it because it effectively negates the rights to a free and open trial, which is what people are guaranteed. So, if a news organization were to challenge it, I suspect you could get the records unsealed. Hopefully people will let this go. Now, obviously, Brennan's not letting it go.
Oh,
And I liked what Alan Jackson said, basically that it was disrespectful to the jury, disrespectful
absolutely.
to Karen,
Absolutely.
and basically a pimple on the behind of justice. That's what
Yeah.
this was.
All right. Oh, while we're on that, I will quickly show us. I don't know who's seen. Okay, hang on. I'll turn this down a bit. It's a bit loud. I've got Hank Brennan's. We'll show his statement quickly, and then we'll show Alan's response. How's that?
That'll work.
Share screen. Okie dokie.
Evidence. I concluded that the evidence led to one person and only one person. Neither the closed federal investigation nor my independent review led me to identify only. Concluded that the evidence led full discretion to independently assess the case and follow the evidence no matter where it led.
Sorry.
After
I didn't have a chance to queue up.
District Attorney Michael Morrissey appointed me, giving me full discretion to independently assess the case and follow the evidence no matter where it led.
All right, we have Tony's version of this. Oh crap! How do I share that now? Tony did his own version of what should have been in there. Image. Oh, what's it gone? Why did that come up there and not there? Oh. I'll play the rest of this while I figure out how to get this up.
Okay.
1 second. Yeah, what a douche. I'm
Well,
going to have to put it up.
if you want, I can just read my edited version.
That would be great, because I don't know why one is saved in Paint and one is saved somewhere else, and I can't share the first one.
Here's what I did. I will tell you when I am adding or editing his text. I am disappointed in the verdict and the fact we could not achieve justice for John O'Keefe and his family. I added, because we didn't go after the most likely suspects, and Morrissey stuck me with Karen Reed. So that's where it stops. And then District Attorney Michael Morrissey appointed me, giving me full discretion to independently assess the case and follow the evidence no matter where it led. But let's face it, there was no way I could do that and collect the $250,000 I'd been promised, so I had to make a show of earning it. Then we go back to the text. After an independent and thorough review of the evidence, I concluded that the evidence led to one person and only one person. Unfortunately, I couldn't prosecute that. And then it picks up. Unfortunately, I could not prosecute that person because he was being protected by others. And then I did some real surgery here. Neither the federal investigation we stonewalled and whose findings we ignored, picks back up, nor my independent review led me to identify any other possible suspect or person responsible for the death of John O'Keefe. And
That's because I didn't
my
look for anyone
part
else.
comes out, even though Helen Keller could have seen where the evidence really led. And then I picked up on the second part of his thing where he says the campaign of intimidation. Yeah, the second part of this is, I've got it up. The campaign of intimidation and abuse that has been waged, funded, and promoted in public and on social media is the antithesis of justice. And I would know, this is where he picks that. This is my editing. And I would know because I myself am the antithesis of justice. I should mention it's been waged against Karen Reed, not against the Commonwealth's witnesses. If, and then I do a whole lot of strikeout here, if we had any integrity, Karen would never have been prosecuted. My heartfelt condolences to the O'Keefe family and faith that over coming years, they will find peace and closure because they sure didn't get it from me pursuing someone who is clearly not guilty. So that's how I would have edited Mr. Brennan's statement for him, but
it's like nobody, he's apologizing for the judicial system for letting them down, like they've done something wrong. And that's wrong. That
is wrong.
Undermines the whole system. The whole system. He obviously has no respect at all.
Now, bear in mind, I'm not accusing Mr. Brennan of anything here. I'm just saying that this is sort of what I feel based on what I saw during the trial. So there's that.
Well, yeah. That's very politically correct. You don't want to see my I actually had a rage stream, I think, when he was vaudeering Daniel Wolf in the second trial. I lost it. I'm so angry at him.
Trial lawyers are taught that during cross-examination of an obstreperous witness, one that you believe is going to fight you, that you ask tight leading questions and that you keep your tone neutral because you don't want a jury to see that you're beating up on somebody. Now, when you're in a voir dire, you can be as nasty as you want because the jury's not there.
Exactly.
And that's exactly, he was trying to intimidate Mr. Wolf, and it just
It
didn't
backfired
work.
on him, didn't it?
Yeah,
Oh,
it just
he
didn't
was
work.
amazing, absolutely amazing. Both of them were, and you can't get two witnesses that are less biased, in my opinion, than them. They weren't hired
Mhm.
by either of them. The report was written way before even the first trial started, with no knowledge of it, and they were limited in scope to their testimonies from their reports.
Yeah,
Hello, it's not rocket science.
no.
And they didn't have to paint their arms blue either. What was your opinions of what do I call him? Doug Squelcher.
Oh, well, first of all, if you are going to conduct a scientific experiment, it might be nice to understand the principles of science.
You think?
And one of the principles of science is that you don't want to induce into the experiment your own bias. You want to keep your own bias out
Is
of
that
the experiment.
was that
So,
confirmational bias that they were talking about in the?
yeah. So what here's the thing that I think may not necessarily be understood by people who watch that. But when the car started backing in on that ridiculous 2 mile an hour thing, when he started backing, he leaned in and brought his arm
Uh-huh.
down so that he hit the tail light.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that to me is him manipulating the results for his own benefit.
But you notice the
And
top version, his shoulder and his hip hit as well.
yes,
You know?
yes, and again, if you have any kind of clinical background, you understand that arm would have been the forearm would have been broken in 2 or more places.
Easy.
The elbow may even have been dislocated if he'd been hit going as fast as he was. I don't know that the upper arm would have been, or the humerus would have been broken, but
Shoulder joint,
certainly the hip
surely.
would have
Clavicle.
been broken, and probably the femur, or maybe even dislocated the knee. I don't know, but
Mm,
you can sure as heck know that there would have been bruising, and it would have
absolutely.
been relatively immediate. And the interesting thing to me, the other thing that was really, I thought, interesting from the 29 mile an hour test that Wolf did,
Mm-hmm.
is that when he hit Rescue Randy went sliding down the road. He didn't just jump up and hurl himself into the yard.
Pirouette.
Yeah. And the whole idea, plus where they found the
Oh,
taillights, right? When you see
hang
the
on, Bry.
test, yeah, when you see the taillights in the test, they hit the ground on the pavement. The only way they could have gotten up in the yard is if he'd been hit in the yard.
Yep.
So
Well,
when you
if
find taillight pieces up there, somebody put them there.
Bry, just before you go, Tony was a respiratory therapist many moons ago as well. That Bry is who I was talking to you about earlier, Tony.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
Now, if the prosecution's case, when they said she went forward 35 and back 50, whatever it was, it ended up being 80 something feet, she would have been in the middle of that lawn and she would have plowed through Brian Higgins's car as well. So,
Mm-hmm.
and who
Well, not to
decides?
mention, if you plot the actual points, the actual GPS points from Mr. I've been pursuing my degree for 17 years, Burgess. If you plot the actual points, they're on another street entirely.
Yeah. The 3-point turn wasn't even done on Fairview Road.
Right. So,
It wasn't.
I mean, unless the Lexus came equipped with a cannon for a human cannonball effect,
Mm-hmm.
that's one heck of a smack if it hit him.
And I'm John O'Keefe. I'm standing there. Hang on a second. I've got 87 feet of warning. This big black thing's headed my way, and I'm going to stand there with my arm out.
Yeah, and by the way, they've got backup lights on a car, so you know you can see the car coming at you.
Yeah. Yep. What about her? That surely would have been fitted with reverse cam, wouldn't you think? Like, does that capture anything? And
It should have, but it doesn't record it.
I guarantee you, Brian Albert had ring cameras as well.
I don't know whether he did or not, but I know that the guy across the street did, and that would have been the best camera to get. And
Correct.
the idea that it's not going to wouldn't have caught anything is, well, that's partially true. It wouldn't have caught the perpetrators because they didn't look at it. If they had actually looked at it,
Yep.
it might have
They didn't
caught the
ask for it.
perpetrators.
Correct. So my theory of this is all. I don't know if you've heard it before, but my theory is that I don't believe that it was a planned thing. I think it was an accident, perhaps, or maybe seeing that new video footage from the waterfall where Higgins is rolling up a little bit, perhaps, and he was drinking all day. When I watched the first trial, I basically said I've got a video of it. Brian Higgins, Brian Albert, and Colin Albert were in the basement with him, and shit went down. And they've got one of those old, in their basement, they have the old doors that open up into the backyard, like flat open, right next to the gate where the flagpole is. And my theory was that something happened in there, and I believe maybe Colin Albert's mouthed off something about Karen. Someone's taken a swing. The dog's gotten up, bitten his arm, and he's either been pushed or punched and fell backwards, hit his head. And then they went, oh, crap. Because he would have gone straight into seizures.
Yeah, I think some version of that is accurate. The other thing is that cops, particularly Brian Albert, from what I understand, I don't know personally, but the rumor is that he has background in, maybe fighting people. The problem that I see with the problem that I see with this is that they're cops and they're used to fighting with people. And so that's how they settle disputes. They punch each other a couple of times and walk away, and a week and a half later they're drinking beer together. But
the problem is, though,
in this case, the guy's not able to drink beer anymore because he's dead.
If you're going to get hit by either of those two boys, though, you're going to get more than that tiny little laceration to the eyebrow, because they're big boys and they're trained in that. The actual,
it was one punch.
Yeah, the actual bleeding on the eyelids was caused from the brain injury itself, like the swelling and the hemorrhaging. So that wasn't caused from being punched. That's why I believe it might have been Colin, because he hasn't got that much force, and he might have just been a dickhead and took a swing, tiny little cut.
Yeah, sucker punch.
Yeah,
and then he fell back and hit his head.
Because that's the only way I could get to the point where the mothers would go to such lengths. The only way they would do that is to protect a child. They wouldn't do it to protect Higgins, and they wouldn't do it to protect Albert. So it has to have, like, do you know what I mean? A mother would not go to those lengths at all, unless it was to protect their child. And that's...
Well, I do think Brian Albert was at the heart of the cover-up.
For
because if you watch the ABC interview, he's sitting in the middle, and every time one of those guys asks a question of somebody else, they immediately look at him before they answer.
I was actually in the middle of doing a video on that today.
Yeah. And that to me, one of the things that you and I probably understand is that, because we have a clinical background, is that a lot of times, in order to be understood, you have to rephrase somebody's statement, So what I hear you saying is that, your leg hurts or whatever.
Yeah.
We do that because we want to make sure we're treating the right thing. Cops very rarely do that. And if they hear something that sets them off, pushes a button or whatever, it's quite likely you're going to get a swing. And the Boston cops especially do have a reputation for being brawlers. And, that's part of the culture. I don't know. I'm concerned that they're not going to investigate further. The people who want the FBI to investigate, there's no way they can do that. The FBI has a very limited scope. It investigates things that basically cross state lines or that involve public corruption, something like that, they can investigate the corruption angle of it, but obviously they didn't have enough to pin anything on anybody, or they would have done that. What they can't do is they can't investigate the murder. They have absolutely no ability to investigate the murder because John O'Keefe was not a federal employee. If he'd been a federal employee, you bet they could have investigated it, but they can't investigate the murder. So while I understand that the jury foreman says, look, the FBI needs to investigate this, they can't do it under our law. But that doesn't mean that Governor Healy couldn't appoint a task force of cops from other jurisdictions to come in and look at this thing.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they should do. But again, and particularly in the last 20 years, forensic evidence has become so powerful in courtrooms. Everybody's watched CSI. They know, how evidence is gathered and everything, which is one of the reasons I think that the state lost here.
Yeah.
But they're not going to be able
was-
to get any forensics to prove anybody did anything. And that's a shame, but that's again falls back on the Commonwealth for not doing the right thing in the first place.
Well, I don't think it was actually a form of shoddy investigation. I believe that was done on purpose, because if you don't look, you don't find. So Brian Albert, as the homeowner, there is an Article 14 in the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights that gives him additional protection above and beyond the Fourth Amendment as a homeowner if criminal activity is on the property. So by not coming out of the house, he's not inserting himself into the investigation. So unless there is, like, someone saw the perpetrator run inside and hide, the police have no probable cause to go in there and have to go through the channels of getting warrants and stuff, which buys him time. Secondly, you've got Proctor, doesn't go out to the scene, doesn't call crime scene investigation, doesn't secure the crime scene, goes directly to the hospital to see John. And whilst at the hospital, that is when he is absolutely positive that John was hit by a car and that Karen was responsible, and that's because he had one sneaker on.
Yeah.
I shit you, that's what he came down to. How did he even know about her car? How?
Yeah, that I have no idea.
He went straight to seize the car and the phone then and there.
You couldn't make a fictionalized movie version of this because nobody would believe it.
No.
Not. And this is one of those truth is stranger than fiction moments, in that the cops decided, we'll just throw away the regular handbook that we use to investigate crimes, and we'll collect evidence in solo cups, and we'll put out. We won't use any crime scene tape. We'll use leaf blowers, because heaven knows that wouldn't blow away any trace evidence or anything, right?
Yep.
We
all watched files,
be ashamed.
There was no photos. There was no, like, the yellow tags with evidence. There was no photos of where John was found. There was no one had documented even where it was. It was the vicinity,
Right.
Nothing was done in, like, if it's someone in blue, the resources are unlimited in that investigation, and you did nothing. They did nothing, and that's because they would have found something. And everyone's saying it's a big conspiracy that you need 80 people to be in on it. No, you don't. You need those people in the house and the lead investigator, and then follow the breadcrumbs. That's it.
You need the people on that group chat and Proctor.
That's it.
Proctor was beholden to him, from what I understand.
Yep. I was actually thinking he might turn and flip, given that he's got nothing left to lose. But he must be on the payroll somewhere for sure.
Well,
and Higgins,
I don't think
where is he?
I don't think he could flip now, because he'd be guilty of perjury from the first trial.
What's he going to lose his job?
No, but he could lose his freedom.
Well, that's the other thing. The McAlberts of them, they're generational Canton, Massachusetts. Like they've born and bred there. They're institutionalized there, and their name has some weight in that community, and they used every bit of it to leverage every bit of it, in my opinion.
I think that's right.
Yeah. So, oh, sorry, I'm missing chat. Yeah, I don't know, Palola's mum, how that little piece of glass got into his nose, because it certainly wasn't in his hand when he got hit by the car, because that would have cut his hand up. Maybe it was flung somewhere and ricocheted to his face as he fell. I don't know.
I can tell you how it got there.
Go on.
Proctor was at the autopsy.
No, Karen pulled it out of his nose on the scene when she found him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Just that tiny little bit. And she said it gushed blood, which would have been true because he was long dead before that. Long dead. Now, what actually concerned me, Tony, you'll understand this. You know that his right hand, I'll see if I've got, you know how they said it was defensive wounds on his hand? No. No. You don't defend.
No, defensive wounds would be here.
It
Not
worried
here.
me. Yes. Because I zoomed in on that picture. Where is it? KKK. Karen, this mouse should automatically go to this folder because it's done it for so long. There. John's injuries. No, not that one. There. Okay. Have a look at this. Oh. Oh, sorry. One friggin' hell. I went in the wrong way. I went in the back door. Come on. And it, there. Okay, sorry. Got it. There we go. Now, have a look at that. What does that look like?
It looks to me like an ecchymosis.
That's the top of his right hand. Now, initially when I saw that, I thought trying to IV access, first responders. If you're laying in the snow and suspected hypothermia, you're not going to attempt a peripheral line.
No, you're going to go with a central line if at all possible.
They did what do they call it? Intraocular, the bone one. That wasn't around when I was nursing, but they went straight into his tibia. So they still look like cannula attempts, and there's bruising around them. So what does that tell you? Now, my theory is, well, this is something that came up through a discussion. They've shit themselves because he started seizing and vomiting in the house. Now, Brian is a first responder. He may have some first aid kit that has basic, normal saline IV drip, perhaps. And then I thought, well, you couldn't because you'd need a nurse there. Hello, Sarah Levinson. Nurse on set. I reckon they tried to revive him on site.
And I wonder what tox showed.
Nothing.
Because you wouldn't just try to fluid resuscitate him.
Thank you, Afton. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only way that would bruise if it was done pre-mortem. And it's not like a snake bite.
No. Not a lot of snakes running around when it's 18 degrees outside.
The other theory we came up with regards to his arm, I do believe they're puncture wounds from an animal. But in that 3 hours that he was laying on that lawn, he could have been attacked by a raccoon, anything, and tried to drag him off. You know what I mean? That could have happened So, yeah, this concerns me, though. This concerns me. Yeah. I just don't know how Proctor can be so adamant that she's guilty. No interviewing her, no nothing. From a hospital visit because he had one sneaker on. Like, and I actually looked up the statistics of that to see if there was something in it. No. Actually, I
No.
tell a lie. My fact finder did that for me. Thank you, Tanya.
You know,
All right.
I had a friend, I have a friend, I should say, who was our secretary when I worked in Jefferson City, Missouri. And her husband drove one of those big milk trucks,
Mhm.
not quite as big as a semi trailer or a tractor trailer, but a big, like, company truck. And he had a milk run where he had to go deliver milk, and he left at like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, that's about an hour after the bars close, and sometimes people are still pretty much in their cups when they're walking home. Some
Mhm.
knucklehead was walking across the road at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I don't know why they do this, but they always wear black pants, a black shirt, a black hat, and he got hit. And the reason he knew he got hit is when he looked in his rear view mirror, he saw two shoes laying in the middle of the
Oh,
road. So you can knock somebody out of their shoes,
oh,
but
yes. It's not a
you
determining
don't knock them out
factor,
of
I think.
one. Yeah.
It's not a
I think the
determining
main
factor.
problem with the reason they couldn't find the shoe is because the dog got the shoe. The dog chewed the shoe up. I'll
Mm.
bet that's what happened.
Well, they had to wait until they had the car back at the Sally Port before they could send the CERT team out, because I looked at the protocol for Massachusetts CERT response, and it's 1 to 2 hours, and they had to wait for that red light or the green light, remember, for 12
Hmm.
hours nearly before they could even attend. So that gave them time and opportunity right there. That's why they
Hmm.
didn't secure the crime scene, because, well, they didn't want anyone to see them planting anything. Hello?
Right. Another reason not to get the ring camera.
Exactly. If you don't look, you don't find. And then
Mhm.
finding 2 other sets of DNA on stuff, they didn't even bother to try and locate who they were either. Like,
Yeah, I don't know if they ran them through CODIS or not, but they should have run them through CODIS. And if they had, they might have found something.
but they didn't want to find something. They weren't looking
Yeah.
because Proctor knew he was in on it from the start. I actually think Yuri maybe a little bit. I don't think he knew to the extent, though. I think he was actually quite shocked watching
I think he
his.
was just following Proctor's lead. He was appointed as a supervisor in that case, but I don't think he did a lot of supervision.
No,
I think he was just palling around with a friend, a good way to spend time out of the office.
yeah, for
Um,
sure.
the only fault I had with Buchanan is his testimony in court. It simply wasn't credible. When you tell
No,
a jury that investigation was conducted with honor and integrity, you have to have
absolutely.
a
Your
really different
definition.
definition.
Oh, yeah. But he had no option.
Hmm.
He,
Yeah,
you know,
he had to defend
he has to
Proctor.
live and work there still,
And
and that's
if Brennan had started out the trial by saying, there are a lot of problems with this investigation, ladies and gentlemen. It was conducted by somebody who has now been fired.
mhm,
But I want you to understand, I believe that the results of this investigation are still good.
yep.
Then it wouldn't have been so bad. Buchanan could have come in and said, yeah, that's not honor and integrity. I mean, the rest of the investigative work is
Mhm,
good, but he certainly crossed the line with these
yep.
texts. It would have had a lot more credibility than what they did.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, they were just so scared of admitting that Proctor did that they didn't do it.
They focused their case on um, trying to ruin the credibility of the defense's case instead of bolstering
Mm.
their own, because they didn't have one. They did
Yeah.
everything to. They just wanted to omit anything that could have damaged it. That's why they didn't bring Proctor That didn't bring Tully. They didn't bring any Lank, Swift. Like none of the first. Anyone that was of any danger of ruining their theory, they didn't get called. And
Yeah,
that's not wrong. They should present it all. That's their job.
They didn't call Higgins because he said there was no body out there.
Yeah, well, he actually said too that he saw a tall, dark guy in the house in the first trial, and they didn't call Alison McCabe in because she did it whoopsie and said, "Oh, you know, Colin Albert wasn't there when John was there." Oops.
Yeah.
It's the little things that they slip up on.
Yeah, it is.
All right, let's have a look at Alan's statement. Oh, God, sorry. That's not very clear. This is in response. This has come out today in response to Special Prosecutor Brennan. Oh, that's not going to get any better. Okay, sorry, I'll just have to read it out to you. The jury has spoken, but Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan, in an egregious breach of prosecutorial ethics, has tried to publicly shame and discredit that very jury. Oh, is that the first page?
That's the first page, I think.
Okay. For him to attempt to supplant his personal views for that of the jury is a desperate attempt to save face in the wake of a unanimous rejection of the prosecution's case. The rules of professional conduct are clear. A prosecutor should support the legitimacy of the justice system and promote public confidence in its operations. Openly attacking a jury's verdict because he disagrees with it undermines that century-old edict. Mr. Brennan claims that his investigation was thorough. If that were true, the Commonwealth would have uncovered what we, the defence, uncovered: hidden exculpatory evidence, lies and perjury by the Commonwealth's own witnesses, cops covering for other cops, a biased and corrupt lead investigator with personal ties to witnesses, and inculpatory and suspicious conduct by a myriad of witnesses. The only job of an ethical prosecutor is to seek the truth in a just and fair manner. The Commonwealth fell wildly short of that responsibility. Theirs was not an effort to find justice for John O'Keefe. Rather, it was a personal vendetta against Karen Reid by DA Michael Morrissey and his hand-picked prosecutors, as it cost the people of Norfolk County millions. The fact is, Karen Reid is factually innocent, and this case, that factually innocent, don't know why I don't like that. And this case never should have gone to trial in the first place. I agree. This case is a stark reminder that there has been a complete breakdown in what is supposed to be our justice system. Those in power are more interested in protecting themselves than the citizens that they are sworn to protect. The Commonwealth's defamatory public comments ring hollow to the very constituents they are supposed to serve. It is now crystal clear, and disgraced District Attorney Michael Morrissey has no interest in actually seeking justice for John O'Keefe by identifying and prosecuting the real killer or killers. The Commonwealth would rather simply condemn the jury and its fair and lawful verdict. We are thankful for the jury's commitment to truth and that they found their way to a just verdict. But make no mistake, if District Attorney Michael Morrissey had his way, the truth never would have come out in this case. It would have been lost somewhere in private and deleted conversations that would have never seen the light of day. Corruption like this doesn't happen in isolation. How many innocent people have been railroaded because of failures in our judicial system? We, as citizens, must demand more of our institutions. 100%
He's
agree.
right. Yeah, me too.
150% agree. Like,
yeah, it's a sad thing. But that's what I started off with. Remember, I said, this isn't the way the justice system works.
No,
in
that's
most of
not
the
an
country.
example. Not an example of the justice system at work at all.
I've had trials where I had rulings that went against me, but I never thought that the judge was biased against me or biased in favor of somebody else.
Yep.
It was just, he was calling balls and strikes, and, that was a strike on my part. In this case, she was not calling balls and strikes, I don't think. She was
So you think she was
acting in a
biased,
biased
mistake?
manner. Yes. Yes.
And you think that that's come down from Morrissey, perhaps?
Oh, I don't know that it came down from that necessarily. I think probably what she intuits is that this would be beneficial to her at some point in the future. And she's going to come off of that bench at some point, and maybe she wants a plum job. Maybe he can help her get one. Maybe she can
She's
get a
gone into
federal
civil,
judgeship.
hasn't she now? She's gone
Yeah.
into civil. But so does that mean what happens if because there's a civil suit now against Karen, isn't there? The O'Keefe's.
Yes,
So
there
do you
is.
think what's the likelihood of her adjudicating?
I wouldn't think it would be in front of her. I would think you would have to get somebody different. And if not, then I would take that up on a writ all the way to the Supreme Court if I had to. The
Why do you
real
think
problem.
the Supreme Court denied her that?
It was just easier. Here's the other part of that. I should give you the legal explanation.
Mhm.
Writs are considered to be extraordinary writs, meaning that the circumstances have to be extraordinary. So, if something can be solved with a regular appeal, for example, if you have an appeal for trial court error, in that
Mhm.
situation, because you have this appeal for a trial court error, you can't file a writ to get it fixed. But if you've got like confidential information in a text message or in an email that came and it's protected by attorney-client privilege, and the judge says you have to turn it over, then you file a writ, because once that horse is out of the barn, there's no way to put it back in. There's no way to make it confidential again. So that's a situation where you could get a writ, but in this situation, you can't get a writ. And that's a real shame. Now, hold on a moment. I need to close my door.
No worries.
We have weather radios, and every Wednesday at 11 o'clock, which is what time it is here, and it goes off, and it sounds that there's voice on it, but the signal is so bad, it sounds like somebody running a buffer. So, and Jody, I have to apologize. I need to get off. I've just got a text from my wife.
No worries.
And I need
Got
to
your
go
luncheon.
take care of something for her.
Yep.
Yeah. So if that's
No
okay,
problem.
I want to say
Absolutely
thank
no
you for
worries.
having me.
Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
We'd love to have you back.
I'll do it again. All right.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Jody.
Tony. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, there you go, ladies and gents. I apologize that I whipped up. I shit you not. I whipped that up from 11:30 tonight. The thumbnail, the overlay, everything. So I apologize for the interruption to Chandler Holderson, but one must strike while the iron's hot. Oh, look, he was funny as, like, he I said to him, how would you like me to introduce you? And yeah, he basically said, I've done this, 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 and this, and tell him that's because I couldn't hold down a job. So yeah, we didn't even scratch the surface on that as far as I yeah, there was a whole heap of stuff I wanted to get on to, but anyway. Now, has everyone seen the video that I did a couple of days ago? Yes, it was good. It's nice. It's nice. I've it's been a difficult communication process the entire way, and I managed only to work it out tonight when I I linked him to my WhatsApp. Thank you, Tanya. And that's how we managed to be able to speak to each other, because other than that, I only had his email address, and he doesn't check them as often as you would a text message. So thank you very much. Now I have pinned his channel link at the top of chat, so you know what to do with your sharing the YouTube you love. And Teresi, I don't know if you heard me yesterday, that cheeky little bugger Anna must have been lurking on the stream, because she bought me a coffee. You know, the thingy, that thing there. Yeah, I got a notification up on the screen. And yeah, she bought me a coffee and said that she missed us all and she'll be back soon. So it's nice to hear from her. I just would have hoped that she would have jumped in chat and said hello. Never mind. Did everyone see the video that I did a couple of days ago where it says it all makes sense now? Ah, okay. It must have been at your end, because I've no idea what happened, sweetheart. I did not see anything from you at all. I thought you'd gone out doing yard work, and even Uda have asked, where's the master gone? I might actually play this. I've got two. One of them's quite funny. It's like the best of Alan Jackson. And you'll know why I've called it. Does that answer your question? That's right, yes. All right.
I don't know if that answers your question, but
Not
that's,
really.
Aww.
Let's try it again. Is that your testimony?
Thank you, Kathy. You didn't have to do that, but that's lovely. Thank you. Now I have to do this. Hang on.
Shout out to the person that just gave us a super chat. This community is just the best. Love you all the different.
I actually should make a membership one, shouldn't I? Down the bottom of the chat, there should be a is it like a dollar sign? And you just click on there, and there's three levels of membership. They start at $2.99. Oh, $2.99. Bargain. All right, let's go to this. This is funny.
Yes.
You had forgotten. You remembered Matt and you remembered Carrie, but you had forgotten the others that you had just contacted maybe 30 minutes before. At that time or after? Did my client even approve?
You can go onto my main channel page, like the whole page. If you're looking at my channel with my banner on the top that says Defense Rests, and then all of my videos underneath it. If you go up, I think you might even be able to click on membership. That might give you the option there. Otherwise, it's in the description box beside my avatar.
Approach you, did she, in that clip?
She did.
Okay.
I answer the questions I'm asked.
At 6 a.m. when Karen found John, you heard about the scene. It was described in detail. It was chaos. To use Mr. Brennan's word in his opening statement, it was bedlam. That was never disclosed to us. And I think Mr. Brennan used this phrase not long ago, that would have been nice to know. Where's the judge's signature? You don't get in trouble or get spanked, you get slapped, you get fined. But that's not at all what you told Trooper Proctor on February 8th, just 10 days after this incident, is it?
I don't recall what I told Trooper Proctor.
I thought your memory got better with time. Well?
I'm still maybe some of the words that I use may be different, and I don't remember on specific days. I've been questioned many times, but the answers are always going to be the same. The wording may be different.
Are you done?
You done?
Yes, I am.
Nobody ever threatened you with perjury, did they?
Oh, they did. Yes.
Oh, they did.
I contacted the FBI regarding it.
Oh, did you?
I did.
You have a report?
Fucking
That's a
twat.
mouthful.
Yes.
My question is, do you have a report from the FBI saying that you reported that someone on the Pyramid defense team threatened to charge you, your words, with perjury? You have a report to that effect?
No.
No. And your entire job revolves around what you say on that witness stand. That's what you said, correct?
I don't know if that answers your question, but
Not really.
That's the most.
Would an expert shade the truth? You don't have to look any further than Shannon Burgess's CV to answer that question. That was a shame.
Get over it.
Well,
I'm still.
that's what you just said, Officer Dever, correct? The Commonwealth, at the end of the day, has presented their best case. They've done their best. Some would say they've done their worst. You were asked by Mr. Brennan, give me one name, very dramatically. You were asked, give me one name. Remember that?
Get over it.
Well, that question?
Yes.
How about the name Judson
I like this. Have a look at
Welcher?
smirk. He's trying to
How about that
stifle
name?
that smirk.
I answer the questions I'm asked.
Two things stand out about that speech. Mr. Brennan literally just said, I didn't elicit any information about dog bites. I just asked about her experience. Question by Mr. Brennan.
That's not what I said. That is
Excuse me.
No, I'm not going to.
So, I heard what Mr. Brennan said. You don't need to tell me what Mr. Brennan said, but go ahead to
How
your
about if I
argument.
quote his words?
How about
that?
Technically.
Technically?
Yes,
Maybe a
technically.
little bit pregnant.
Technically a little bit pregnant.
I answer the questions I'm asked.
Correct?
Yes.
Who charges people with crimes?
If a crime is committed, there can be a report of it.
Who
So,
charges people with crimes?
in the end,
I don't know if that answers your question, but
Not
that's.
really.
Get over it.
Well, would an expert shade the truth? You don't have to look any further than Shannon Burgess's CV to answer that question.
I accidentally put that one in twice. Sorry.
That was a shame. With her on purpose, then turned around and 3 days later said, and by the way, the defense should be disallowed from using Dr. Lapasada to talk about the very dog bite wounds that I asked Dr. Russell about. That cannot stand in this courtroom. You didn't know if they were asleep. All you knew was there was a severely injured man on the front lawn of their house, and your sister didn't answer the phone, not once, but twice, correct?
Correct, she didn't answer the phone.
Did you think your sister might have been in peril? Did you think to go inside the house and check that they're okay?
I had no reason to think that they weren't okay.
I
You had
tried
no reason to
507.
believe they weren't okay. A man was dead or dying on their lawn, and your sister's not answering the phone.
that's not a yes or a no answer.
Well, yes, it actually is, Miss Dever.
There's nothing nefarious. I
Nefarious.
remembered who I called. I didn't go back and look at phone records.
I didn't say it was nefarious. Why would you use the word nefarious?
I don't know if that answers your question, but
Not
that's.
really. And by the way, if someone does tell you Google hypothermia, why would you Google how long it takes to die in cold? Wouldn't you just Google hypothermia?
I answer the questions I'm asked.
Understood the question.
And you misunderstood that question?
Yes.
What
I
did you
did.
misunderstand about that question?
I didn't know it was that you heard, so I was explaining what happened in the back of the car.
I see. So you just ignored the part, literally, the part of the question where he said, what did you hear her say? Higgins spent a quote, wildly long time, as she described. These are all incredible details to tell law enforcement.
I don't know if that answers your question, but
Not
that's,
really.
that's the most.
I answer the questions I'm asked.
That test does not represent the theory of the Commonwealth's case. Really? Then why was Dr. Welcher playing dress-up in John O'Keefe's clothes? Well,
So no.
might have been a
I
good
disagree.
idea to sit Mr. Albert down and say, There, you're shaking your head again. I'm not done with my question. Might have been a good idea.
Now, this is the point. He's questioning Gallagher here. And this is what, have a listen to Gallagher's response. Because that confirms that he had no reason to search that premises because Brian didn't come out of the house. And that's because of Article 14 under Massachusetts Declaration of Rights. So he addresses it here.
Mr. Gallagher, since you happen to be there, no sweat off your brow to sit Mr. Albert down and say, by the way, I got a pen and paper. Who was here last night, just before John O'Keefe was found dead on your lawn? Who was here? Might have been a good idea, correct? Have you ever seen a defense attorney charge someone with a crime, ma'am?
I'll never forget it.
You wouldn't overlook that.
I will never forget it.
You would not overlook that either, would you, Ms. McCabe?
I answer the questions I'm asked.
Can you answer the question that I just asked? You're not answer my question. Get over it. Well, how is that possible? It's not possible. The only way it's possible is if those shards never touched his arm. Because it was a dog.
Over. So yes, you can get in trouble.
You're talking about lying in an affidavit, sir.
I'm talking about misleading.
Correct.
I would have to twist circumstances to have the right to search Brian Albert's house. We had no reason, and there's been no reason since.
How about this? How about this? There's a dead guy on the lawn that looked like he potentially could have been in a physical altercation. How about that? The Commonwealth has continued along that same line, and I want to bring something to the court's attention specifically. Last night, we pulled the tape, and she darn sure didn't see the car go in reverse at a high speed and strike a pedestrian. Do you want to be here tonight?
I have no relation to this case, so.
I asked you that. I asked you if you want to be here tonight.
I answer the questions I'm asked.
I don't know if that answers your question, but
Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Now, this one.
Do it.
This one is actually from, she's got a YouTube channel called, what's it called? Oops. I'll find it. It's in the middle here somewhere. She's a psychologist, something like that. And this is her view, and I snipped it because it puts into words what I'm trying to explain and how I couldn't explain it, if that makes sense. It's only a quick one.
It's also the reason why at 5:07, as soon as she hangs up with Karen Reed, when Karen Reed calls her to look for John, looking, going, do you know where John is? Because Karen Reed would have known that Jen McCabe was in the house at 34 Fairview. So she calls Jen McCabe looking for John. As soon as she hangs up, Jen McCabe calls over to her sister's house, 5:07. She calls Brian Albert asking, what the hell should I do? And at that point, Brian Albert says, go to her house, right? Let's control the narrative. Now, great. We're in a position where we get to determine how this whole thing goes, how John O'Keefe's body is found. So as a first responder, as a former Marine, he would have known that if somebody is suspected to be out in the cold, to have suffered hypothermia, they cannot be pronounced dead. And it was a genius decision on the part of Brian Albert. And that is the reason why Jen McCabe is Googling house long to die in the cold.
Yep.
Given the timestamp of 2:27 and 38 seconds on January 29th for that Safari suspended state tab with the It's Raining Men, what did that tell you about the timing of when It's Raining Men was accessed by the user?
Yeah, well, so the indications would be that tab was brought up and then went away from to do another tab. So it can happen less than a second. It doesn't take long to open up a tab and start a new tab. Can be done very quickly.
The question was, at what point should we put John O'Keefe's body outside? Because at what point would it be viable to pretend to assume that he died from hypothermia?
No frostbite, remember?
With regard to this particular example where the browser state DB is the last entry, so the activity happened before, was that unique on this phone, or were there many examples of this?
No, I found many examples of this exact behavior.
What he is saying is that there were dozens of examples where Jen opened up Safari, looked at whatever was on the screen, and then hit new tab. Because the state of this YouTube tab that he's showing us just before the alleged 227 Google search, the Safari Google search, was exactly that. It had been opened for like a second, and then a new tab was opened instead of, in other words, closing that YouTube tab. She just opened up a new tab to start something else. And there were dozens and dozens of examples of that exact behavior elsewhere.
Do you have an opinion as to the timing of that first search for Hoslong to die in cold?
Yes, I do.
What is that opinion?
That would have happened at or before January 29, 2022 at 2:27:40 a.m. in the morning.
And what is the basis for your opinion?
Again, by how this particular phone operates with that exact operating system and comparing it to other data on that phone and the way it presented it out itself is all consistent with that search happening at or before that time.
It's not a coincidence that he's the one seated right in the middle. He's in charge of this group. You should also know that Brian Albert is the oldest of 7 children. He is the patriarch of his own family, of which he has 5 children. And so this is a very close family. They have all been born and raised, and most of their children remain in Canton, Massachusetts also.
First time some of the key players in the Karen Read trial sitting down for...
You'll also notice that a lot of what they say is true. It is very sad, Nicole. This is a very sad situation. The problem is it's hard to feel bad for these people because they put themselves in this situation and they didn't have to. And we'll talk about that in a minute.
For an exclusive interview, his friend Jennifer McCabe and her husband Matt, former Boston Police Sergeant Brian Albert, and his wife Nicole, and his brother Chris Albert. All 5 of them pulled into the center of this high-profile case and now speaking out.
I think the reason we all stayed quiet is because we were just witnesses. This is a thing that we had nothing to do with.
We did the civic duty, came and told the truth, and that's it.
Right. So you see how they're trying to paint themselves as witnesses. We're just witnesses. We didn't do anything wrong. We're just witnesses. And they can say that until they're blue in the face. The problem with that is they're not just witnesses. They are absolutely not just witnesses. And it's a little harder to say now because none of them, with the exception of Jennifer McCabe, was called into the second trial. John O'Keefe was not left out. Karen Read and not anybody in the house because John O'Keefe was dead hours by the time he is discovered at 6 in the morning.
I could not be standing here without these amazing supporters.
People turned this thing into a tailgate party, it looked like some days. Board games, cornhole, cookouts. This is a guy that was murdered. And it's atrocious for that family.
While the prosecutors...
And I want you to also keep in mind something here. As he doubles down on the lie that they had nothing to do with John's death, he is also, or this group of people, has made every effort to keep John O'Keefe's family close. And it's really sad. So, of course, the feds show up, she's going to call him. But she calls Peg O'Keefe. And that shows you how much, to what great lengths this family has gone to try to keep Peg O'Keefe close. And
theories.
What they've done is they've dehumanized us to the sense where we're not real people. We're almost like caricatures.
All right, let me stop here. Chris Albert does not personally have direct involvement that any of us are aware of His son is Colin Albert.
Oh, fucking bleed before I hit your shit. Before I run your shit. Before I fucking chug a beer and hit that shit.
He was not at the house when John was there, so I drove.
You indicated on cross-examination you've never been in a fight.
No.
Indicating that you have no violent tendencies and no violent proclivities, correct?
Nope.
You stand by that testimony?
Correct.
Oops.
Yo, you're Benton's boys. I will beat all your asses. I promise you, I will fuck you all up.
Loser.
Pull up, bitch. Fuck you. Yeah, fuck you. Boy, you be knocked out. KO. Bang, bang.
Bang, bang.
So when you said, I will fuck you up and I will beat your ass, was that a friendly invitation?
To be honest, I put this bit in because I love it when Alan Jackson swears.
Ed walked up to you and said, I will fuck you up. I will beat your ass. You didn't take that as a threat? Yeah. In addition to Brian and Nicole Albert, you're also very close with Chris and Julie Albert, correct?
Yes.
Nice family portrait.
Chris Albert is a Canton Select Board member, is that right?
Now he is, yes.
This guy who was a pizza shop owner just so happens to be a part of the group, a part of the body, the selectmen for the town, who then has jurisdiction over the police. And really? the one person who we know has perjured himself. It's not a question. It's not even like a funny gray line. We 100% know commit perjury was Colin Albert, and Bev is protecting him, has made it so he can't be one of the third-party culprits.
Innuendo is not evidence. False narratives are not evidence. However, what evidence does show is that John O'Keefe never entered the home at 34 Fairview Road in Canton the night he died.
It centers on a location slightly closer to the house than the roadside. Although several records show the same center coordinate with differing accuracy radii. Some of these location records are shown in the map below in white. So let's go down and look at what you had in your report for the area in white. In the area in white that you're referring to, there are two white circles, the largest one there. This, in fact, was a depiction that you included in your report on page 29, correct?
Correct.
Interesting and notable, you did not include that depiction in your timeline that you discussed with the jury yesterday, did you?
I did not know.
But it was important enough for you to put that depiction in your report, correct?
Correct.
And notably, the larger white circle covers a substantial amount of the house at 34 Fairview, correct?
I just noticed though. That
with Karen Reed, when Karen Reed calls her to look.
That doesn't cover the garage, does it? Ooh.
Report on page 29 yesterday, did you?
I did not know.
But it was important enough for you to put that depiction in your report, correct?
Correct.
And notably, the larger white circle covers a substantial amount of the house at 34 Fairview, correct?
Some have, without any evidence, pointed to 18-year-old Colin Albert, a nephew of the homeowner, and accused him of attacking John O'Keefe as he entered the home.
If you have children,
listen to this.
What would you do to protect them from going to prison for the rest of their lives for something that they did probably blackout drunk. The one time they make a mistake, they do something stupid in a blackout drunk episode. What would you do? And how would you go about protecting your child from the possibility of a life in prison?
Right there. That, my friends, is what it boils down to, in my opinion. Because those mothers would not have gone to those lengths for Brian Albert or Brian Higgins at all. That, when I watched that, well, I only cut snippets of her, actually I'll put her thing in chat. I only cut snippets of that interview or that video. But when she said that, that's like, the penny dropped. My God. And have a check this out. This is the view from Brian Albert's bedroom window. Do you think you could have seen anything? Yep. Inside his window. That's how far away they were. Can't make this shit up. Oh, speaking of that. Where was it? Check this out. You are not going to believe what Tanya found. Where did I save it? I can't remember. Hang on. I'll have to look at my... Oh, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Come on. Chan, are you still in chat? Oh, here it is. Found it. Stop looking. Phew. I knew I'd saved it. Right. You go over there. And let's share this. Let's just share this motherfucker. Present. Share screen. Right. This is the Canton Citizen. If I can make it more easy. Okay. That's not going to work either, is it? God damn it. All right. Didn't actually do anything then. I don't think it did it? Oh, fuck. Let's forget it. All right. So, police address response to fatal crash on Pleasant Street. The driver of a fatal one-car crash on Pleasant Street that occurred in the early morning hours on Christmas Eve has been identified as Craig M. Casey, 30, of Staunton and formerly of Dedham. The accident has received widespread media coverage in part because the body of the victim was not located during an initial search of the area by police, but rather by a passing motorist around 7 a.m., approximately 1 hour after police had searched the scene. Addressing the incident in an email to the Citizen, Deputy Police Chief Helena Rafferty said police had initially received a report of a driver sideswiping a Canton resident in Staunton and fleeing at a high rate of speed. A short time later, a resident called to report an accident in the area of Meadows Avenue. And Pleasant Street. Rafferty said when officers arrived at the scene around 5:15 a.m., they found the vehicle unoccupied, but having sustained heavy damage. 3 officers then searched the area on foot and in cruisers, believing the driver may have fled the scene. The vehicle was towed and the DPW crew cut down a tree that had been damaged during the accident. After the scene had been cleared, Rafferty said police received a call from a motorist reporting there was a person sleeping on a lawn of a home near the accident scene. Police and EMTs responded and found a deceased male with major trauma. Whoops, missed another one, dickheads. According to Rafferty, none of the responding officers or anyone else at the scene, including several neighbours, the tow truck driver, or the DPW workers, saw the victim as he was wearing dark clothing, lying motionless, and it was pitch black out. Although we wish we located him earlier, we do not believe it would have changed the outcome at all, said Rafferty. Well, you won't know, will you? Both the accident on Pleasant Street and the earlier accident in Staunton remain under investigation by state police. And then, so this was like 3 years ago, I think, 2 or 3. And then I read the next bit. Now I know why. For the second time in the past month, police intercepted a large quantity of marijuana headed to Canton delivery centre off Route 138. The most recent seizure occurred in December 26th at 1:30. Working in conjunction with the Mass State Police and the US Department of Homeland Security, police conducted a traffic stop at the intersection of Turnpike Street and Dan Road and were able to seize 150 pounds of black market marijuana with an estimated street value of $500,000. Canton's just got their priorities wrong, that's all. They're just focusing on different criminal activity. You know, but apparently the body was found almost on, because Chris Albert used to live next door to John, and apparently it was found just off Colin Albert's father. What's Chris Albert's front lawn on Meadows Ave? What the actual? So there you go. 2 bodies on lawns in Canton. What the? All right. Well, I think that there. Oh, that there ends my my rant. Yes, I've got a few little things I'm working on in the background at the mini. They'll be out shortly, and we'll recommence Mr. Chandler on the morrow. Sorry about that delay. So we're up to day 7. We've only got two days left anyway, so that will finish off the week, which is good. I have to start getting ready for... Yes. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Pulled that together, honestly, like with half an hour's notice. Literally. Okay. Yeah, as I said, hope you enjoyed that, and we will be back tomorrow. No worries, sweetheart. Don't work too hard. Oh, where's Simi? I miss Simi too. And Udahef. And I'm still working on another guest. I sent them a second email. I'm waiting on a reply, so it's going to be way better. Not way better, but like, you know what I mean. Sorry, I didn't mean that to be derogatory in any way at all. Don't even know why that came out, but anyway. Okay. Love yous all. You can't be good. Be good at it. See you tomorrow.
Hey there, thanks for stopping in. We hope you will join us again. We all look forward to next time. We get to talk about true crime. Clues. Justice served in an honest fight. True crime tales till the verdict's right. Solving more than just trivial quests, where sentences rule and the defense rests. Our true crime family is great. All types of topics we debate. Smash that like and ring that bell. Hit subscribe, you might as well.